This next one is our new single, and it's called If You Can't Do It When You're Young, When Can You Do It? And it comes out on February the 16th. Clap for my guitar. Of course.
It's the audience. If you can't do it when you're young, when can you do it? It's Radio 2, it's Britpop at the BBC, and we are joined now by one of the members of the audience, Sophie Ellis-Bextor. Welcome to the show. Where does that take you back to when you hear something like that you were part of?
Yeah, it's real nostalgia. I learned so much within the sort of 3 or 4 years that I was part of that band.
OK, tell us the story. What happened? How did you get to be in the audience?
I was a really big fan of Britpop, actually, and there was a club called Pop Scene at the Astoria every Friday night, and me and my girlfriends were there. Without fail, it was sort of the thing we would talk about all week, and it was there that I met somebody that said, I've got a friend that's looking for a singer for a band. So I was 16, and I thought, that's a great story to tell my grandkids that I was in a band once. And as soon as I started singing, I thought, I've found the thing I was looking for. That's how it all began, really.
What did your friends make of it then? If you all go out as a gang to an indie club each week, and then one week you turn up and say, yep, I'm in a band now. What? What do you mean you're in a band?
Well, I think for them it kind of made sense because I really was so passionate about music, and my mum actually recently gave me back all of my GCSE and A-level books to be sort of chucked out or gone through, and they were just covered in doodles of band names and like...
Okay, come on, like who then?
No,
so
it's so embarrassing.
Who are the bands that you're a big fan of?
I sort of put everything on there. Everything from things I'm still happy I like Pulp and Blur and Oasis, to things like menswear.
These Animal Men, were they on there anywhere?
No, there were some quite obscure bands like 60 Foot Dolls and, golly, loads of stuff.
Had you done the logos, the proper logos?
Done logos.
Oh,
I'd done like Damon and Alex and fancy writing. I'd probably tried out a few different surnames next to my name just to see what it would look like. Yeah, lots of practicing my signature.
Did you? You see, that's always the first telltale sign that you're hooked, isn't it? Or you know that that's what you want to do, is when you practice your signature.
I think as well the difference was that because when it was my, my teenage years, the whole teenage obsession was music. That's what we were seeing all the time in lots of music shows, music press. So for some of my friends, being into bands was sort of part and parcel of being that age.
Yeah. So you have to go to, I imagine, some sort of rehearsal for the first time when you walk in. That must be very strange, mustn't it?
I think the strangest moment actually was probably when I signed my record deal, because we waited till I was 18 so that I could do it without my parents having to be a sort of co-signature on it. And I was still at school, so I had a free afternoon on a Friday. So we went from school, took some of my mates along, went to Mercury Records, signed the deal, then went out and had lunch by the river. Yeah, and then I finished my A-levels in June and went on the Enemy Brat Bus tour that summer and did like Glastonbury and all that kind of, it was brilliant. I was just completely sort of soaking it all up, really.
So from writing down these band names on your book and certain individuals' names on your book to suddenly being on the road with those people, how was that? Who were you meeting?
It was really exciting because the first award show I went to was the Q Awards, and I remember that Debbie Harry walked in just before me, and you walk into the room and suddenly it's sort of like going to a place where there's amazing lookalikes, but except they're all the real people. And yeah, for me at age sort of 18, 19, it was incredible and really exciting. Coming from it, I was such a fan, and I, would look over the artwork and get so excited about videos. And then when I became part of a major label, I was really shocked at how that's such a last-minute thing. That was like the last thing that would be done, would be the first thing that a fan would see, the first thing you'd be sort of studying and seeing all the details. And sometimes that would be kind of a throwaway thing. I think, no, you've got to do this the other way around. The aesthetics is so much part of the journey as well.
And did you think did it feel different for being a girl within this whole, quite a blokey scene? I mean, there were some great female-fronted bands, some great women musicians, whether it was Justine from Alaska or Louise or Sonia. How was it from your point of view?
Yeah, it definitely... there was definitely a type of indie girl that was the front girls, and I don't necessarily subscribe to that. So I did find it quite awkward sometimes, actually. There was definitely aspects of it where I felt a bit young, a bit girly. I felt a bit patronised occasionally. And that's actually part of the reason why when my band split up, it's part of the reason why I went and did Groovejet, because that was just another world, and I thought it's quite refreshing to do a song that's completely different from that.
Who are you patronised by?
People at the record label, actually. There was one senior chap there, and he would spend a lot of time telling me what he thought people my age would want. And I think, why didn't you just ask me? I'm sat here and I love this stuff and I do buy concert tickets and I do buy albums and I do buy the music press. So
Yeah, I'm your own focus group sitting
exactly.
in front of you.
I'm the target group. Please, ask me what I think. But I remember him saying to me, "Oh, you're a very opinionated young woman." It's like it was better if I didn't say too much on the whole, but I didn't really adhere to that because I was a teenager and I didn't care.
And of the Britpop bands and the great albums that came out of the era, do you have any favourites? Are there any ones that you really cherish and would listen to these days?
Yeah, I mean, things like Park Life, that still sounds great. I think those Pulp albums from that era, it was really exciting.
It was astonishing how many records were coming out. When you start looking back, there were just so many albums.
I think it was almost week after week. We'd be doing another, one seminal album after another, and all the bands coming in.
Yeah.
We had one particular month, I
without
think,
really knowing how much impact they would have over the next 10 years, well, now 20 years, really.
Yeah.
And you're going to perform for us.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us why you've chosen this song.
Well, when I was thinking about, a good Britpop song to cover, the first band I thought was Pulp, actually, because I think Jarvis's lyrics are just amazing. Songs like Common People, it's just an astounding pop record. But the first song I remember hearing from them was Do You Remember the First Time? And I thought it was sort of summed up, I suppose, my emotions with the whole of the Britpop thing, because I actually do remember the first time I heard a lot of those songs, because it was that important to me.
Sophie Ellis-Bextor does Pulp, Do You Remember the First Time? Even though, obviously, we're on radio, but this little bit is being filmed for the BBC Red Button. We were going to make you stand up and do the indie dance that you would have done at the club. Do you remember the first time? I imagine a lot of arms and things going.
No, I can remember. I don't even want to think about this dance. I remember it really well, unfortunately.
So do you remember, because that was, as Pulp were on the way up. It was brilliant, though, the thing about Pulp, which I've said during the course of this week, was it finally proved, I think, that, that sort of band could make it into the centre of the major, into the top. I mean, when Common People went into the middle of the charts, entered at number 2, just thought, we've really won this.
Absolutely.
For a second, it actually felt we'd taken over, we'd stormed the barricades.
That kind of band and that kind of frontman, actually, because he was, had that real charm of being quite an unexpected frontman, but was so brilliant at it, and bright and interesting and real depth to it.
And do you think the whole era and going from being a fangirl to being a musician in the Britpop era, has it influenced the way you are now, the musician that you are now?
Well, certainly it was through the Britpop era that I first started writing songs, really awful songs, but still having a go. My lyrics were shocking. But I think for me, it was the first time that music felt very squarely for my generation, and I owned it, and it wasn't records that my dad was introducing me to or things I heard on the radio. It was stuff that me and my friends were going out and seeking. And that excitement definitely is, that enthusiasm, I've carried that on. That's part of the reason why I still love making music.
And what did you learn from, like we were talking about being patronised about some of the, the gigs that you had to do, what things did you learn from that era that have shaped you to be the person you are today?
I've learned that if the Blue Tones are doing a gig on a Monday night and it's a school night, don't lie to your mum and say that you're staying at your friend's and she's staying over at yours to her mum, because when you come home at 4 a.m. and you can't find your keys, your mum will open the door and say, well, I hope it was worth it. And it will make you feel awful for a couple of decades after.